So the 2021 includes the 3 positions that he has already hired for the 2, I think the records technicians, and then
it's
one.
the Senate Bill 217 that's caused 2 of those, a minimum of 2 of those hires. This coming thing.
So the 2021 includes those 3.
You're right. Sooner rather than later. I do have a question down the bottom. It says COVID grants. It's got 1 FTE for
All
each
the
of the
years?
years. And I know
Well, I
we-
kind of just moved one person around because she was in a different grant, so I kind of just kept it that way, just to keep it.
So it's the same number of bodies, just a slightly
different grant.
title. Gotcha. It's not that significant then. And these are just salaried and hourly. These are employees. These
Yeah,
are
some of them could be
W-2 employees,
part-time. I don't know if you have that many part-time, but some of them are part-time, probably part-time.
like the
probably-
CTC grant or something like that.
Oh, yeah, or like in the museum, she's part-time, and I think the coroner has a few part-time in his.
I think the coroner just has 1 part-time person, didn't he?
But I think if he requested additional
He did
transport,
Oh,
and I don't know if that's going to be somebody that's already working within his department, or if he's going to hire an additional employee to do those transports.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions we need to probably.
Yeah, we got to ask questions in all these, and like the museum.
So it might help if you identify what departments you need to talk to. Earlier, you said there may be some you didn't need discussion with and some you do. So identify those. And then let's get a schedule determined to move through those. I think the initial time critical thing is the decision on the health insurance and the COLAs. So if we have that before we leave today, as far as direction, then we can take our next step of what does your next step look like? Is it individual departments? Is it talking staffing on the whole? Is it department by department staffing?
Have you gotten from every department good numbers so far?
What I've submitted to you guys in the last budget book.
In that budget book, okay,
Those
and
numbers
the
here.
public health was just,
Public
Mirror
health is the
last
only
year.
one, and yeah.
and
And I
that's,
talked to
go ahead, I'm sorry.
him today, and he said that we would need to start working on it right away on getting a budget for the public health.
And he may be already on it, and I was compiling a list because we've got moving targets on the CTC grant right now.
Yeah, got
And,
some, working on an application for the next 5 years.
yeah, and probably, I got the impression it's going to be a lesser amount. I don't know significantly. It may be 0 because they may not qualify us, but that's kind of a big chunk.
Judy, can you let me in?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
It's
That way I
like
can just see it.
yes, I wasn't
big
paying
deal.
attention. We've got a couple other people on with us. So we're good.
Okay, so we need to come up with a range for that, a most probable option. And then COVID is,
we'll have a couple of grants for next year, right?
we have for sure 1, and we may have another one. But we've got some that have to be spent this year, and I don't know, depending on how we spend them this year, what does it do to this year's budget and the potential to carry over and that kind of thing in terms of reserves that we didn't expend out of the regular funds.
And we can always do an amended budget next year too. We get
Like
money
you're
that we don't expect. Yeah, we
You're gonna
can,
do one this year.
right, like I'll do this year.
That's real life.
Mhm.
So next steps then, Judy, we need to do this soon.
So we have already established a work session for this Friday,
Mhm.
and that is, I'm looking to confirm our time on that. That is 9 a.m. And Monday the 9th, starting at 1. We can use those times however you think is the best use of your time. If we want to invite departments in, I'm pretty sure whatever time I tell them to be here, they will be here.
So Friday, 9 a.m. I don't have that in front of me, but we're also doing the airport interviews Friday, right? At 1 p.m.
Yes, and that's in the afternoon. So your morning, I'm gonna look at your agenda before I say that for sure and make sure, but that's my recollection. You have the entire morning starting at 9, and then starting at 1, you have an executive session for your airport manager.
Okay, and the entire morning, what was budget?
Yes.
Okay. So we've got some homework to do before then. This kind
Would
of
you
stuff.
like me to invite department level staff to that meeting on Friday or plan for that on Monday?
Well, do we need to talk to all of them? I'm
That's your
thinking-
first question.
I'm thinking that, there's a lot of departments that, at least normally, where they're not asking for any more, they're not asking for any less. It's just pretty much the same, whatever raises or whatever. And those, I kind of feel like it's, hate to say a waste of their time, but that it doesn't serve a purpose.
Right, I agree with, I think bigger ones is who you want to focus
And I
on.
know you've already expressed a desire to meet with the sheriff for additional time. And who else do we know of?
The weed department, I think would definitely
Yes.
be a good one because he's new. And this is his first budget and it's substantially different. And so I think that one would be a very good one.
What about public health? Do you think that'd be a good one to have with meeting
Who's
with
that?
public health?
The public health, if we have information for you. Otherwise, we're wasting your time and ours.
Maybe that's one of your down the road a little bit. You don't have much road to go down. Let me just
He
say
needs
that.
to probably
But
have
maybe not
direction.
this week, maybe there next week. or the
I
week
think,
after.
I mean, I could ask Dr. Van Kula, but he's got a lot
He
of
needs
things
to
that
settle a little bit.
and hasn't settled yet, and so give him a chance and we kind of go over some things.
I know sheriff is ready to go. I have heard from Weed also of that desire.
I-
There may be other departments, and I don't know to say specifically, but if there are other departments that had omitted their salary waiting to talk to the commissioners, we need to address that.
And that's indicated on your memo here, but it was not included, so I don't,
Those that did not include, we need to make sure we have a plan of how to include those. And
I
then
think-
your,
I'm
oh,
sorry.
so go ahead.
Art wanted to ask, I guess he forgot to put a vehicle in his budget, so he wanted to talk to you about that.
And that was one of those complicated structures that he was talking about where something about going full-time, but not really getting paid for full-time, so you could use that money for a vehicle, and it started sounding like it was running on the edge.
And which department is that?
Emergency manager.
Okay.
And because he's restricted on how much money he can make based on his pension plan where he retired. So he can only make a certain amount of money.
I'm hearing an echo in there and I'm not sure where it's
In your
coming
owl,
from.
in the owl?
Coming out of the owl.
Um,
I'm not sure what it is. I don't know if anybody else is hearing it and it's
I
bothering,
didn't
but
hear it, but I'm wondering if it's facing you and.
I heard it
You
from
turn
your
it-
computer.
I
so
just
heard
pulled
it.
out
Mhm.
my thing here to see if it was me,
Mhm.
but it's not.
Okay.
I don't know.
So and I don't know what his scheme is, he does need a vehicle. Okay, he's running around some little thing that's gonna high center on a piece of gravel. And he doesn't have room for his equipment and all. So that was an ask, but he had some scheme. I hate to use the term scheme, he had a plan that would enable us to do that, but I don't know. It sounded a little shaky, not shanky, but edgy to me. You can't,
So-
if you can't pay this money, we can't call it salary and then buy a vehicle with it.
But it'll be the county's vehicle, or would it be his vehicle?
It would be a county vehicle dedicated to emergency manager, because he'd have equipment and things in that, radios and stuff like that.
I think wasn't what he was talking about using the EMPG grant.
That's my
Because the
next question,
EMPG
is we
grant-
haven't got that grant we didn't get it this year, are we, and
Well-
Suzanne Benton was asking me about it, and I told her that you guys,
That's kind of a weird one. For some reason, it's a you have to apply and then you almost have to go a full year before you even find out anything about it. And I'm not sure exactly when it does come out,
So is it
because I
gonna,
haven't gotten good answers on that.
so are we gonna be applying for the next year budget cycle?
Well, and I guess that's what we have to decide also, is if we want to go ahead and apply for the next year's cycle. But the EMPG grant will cover,
His salary?
it'll cover his salary, but it will also cover expenses within that department. And I think maybe we need to analyze, I need to figure out how much it'll cover of what, because I haven't gotten good answers.
Okay, so we have, if we do, I want to include that in the budget, I'll need to include it on the revenue side.
Right.
So as far as with whom do we meet on Friday? The sheriff has already given us his wish list on the equipment side.
What was your desire in further conversation with him? Because that was part of his question to me is, he felt like he already had a really good session with you and was not sure what else you needed to hear from him. But he was very willing to come and talk.
I'm sure he
about
is.
everything.
They gave us a pretty good proposal on, or concept proposal on how to smooth out the cash flow issues with fleet replacement and other equipment. And then, they throw the 217 in there as kind of a wild card and just as evidence people and things of that nature, which is reflected, I believe, on the personnel side. But we've already had that initial conversation. We kind of know where he is. And as far as personnel and all, based on where we land on these options, that'll tell you what the sheriff's department salaries are going to be and overhead. I would think that we need to talk to some of these other ones first.
Yeah, because we honestly already know about the sheriff's numbers, even as far as that goes. We know.
For both the jail and his?
Yeah, he told us in the process what he was going to need to do with the replacements and add.
So you did allow for?
And there may be.
We haven't allowed for anything other than we've had the conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just a conversation.
So let me suggest this, let's put him toward the end of your cycle
Mhm.
and meet with some other departments first, and then you can recap anything with him that needs, sort of reviewed or finalized.
I'm kind of wondering if maybe we should do it the other way, because his is such a big, complex budget. And that I think it's one of those where you ask the questions, then you think about it, you see the numbers, you look at them, and then you have more questions. That's kind of the way I see it. I don't know how everybody else.
Well, his
What
question
everybody
to
else
me is,
thinks.
what do you need from him? What is your expectation for the budget time with him?
And he's basically already told us what he
That was the reason.
So we've
for
already
this
got
question.
that. And I think we kind of need to figure that out from the other departments, what their asks are now. And then also in this budget, you've got projected revenues.
Mm-hmm.
And then probably have not included the $300,000 of COVID.
No, I haven't included any grants, and that's a discussion we probably should have, is what type of grants do I need
Because
to
that'll
include?
shape, say, in public health, how we.
Well, it'll still have the expenses, but the revenue will coming in to show that they're not using fund balance to pay for the increases.
Right, that's what I'm looking at is how much cash do we have.
Mhm. And if you look at your reports, I think that they'll kind of, right now, based on, if you go into public health, based on the way everything is set right now, there's going to be a loss of about $6,000. So depending on how you go with your,
A loss of 6,000 on what?
go into fund balance.
General fund balance? Or?
Well, we can't really look at public health because it's not really a good budget. We need to really get good numbers in here.
Right. But I thought we were $1 million plus in the hole on our projection revenue versus expenses.
That would be on overall.
Yeah, because we have to look at everything,
Mhm.
particularly when it comes to things like public health, social services, when they're asking for
But
increase no levy allocations.
I think what you need to do is maybe ask department heads if they would like to talk to you guys to request some of the stuff that they want to.
I think they just want that conversation.
Yeah, I think that would be a good
also,
idea.
Well, I think, yeah, if they want to.
Mhm.
Well, and that's because in here, And we've got the payroll stuff and all, but I have no idea if somebody needs a new computer.
And Jody
They
wants,
should have asked for that in the draft preparation.
They
but
did?
You know, because of all the transitions and the timing, there may be things that, oh yeah, I forgot to ask for this thing.
and Jody's wanting back her mill levy back, and you probably have that discussion with her to see how you're gonna.
So would it be beneficial if we just send out a email to the departments and say,
Here's a schedule.
here's a schedule,
Yeah.
what
Let's do.
fits for you, and try to, I mean.
I can make it fit.
You know what we are, you know what the three of us are gonna be here, days and stuff, so
You're gonna
just,
move in.
well, whatever it takes, we gotta get through it, so.
I'll just
Set it up.
bring the RV park right across
There you
the
go.
street and just stay there.
Yeah, let me just work up a proposed schedule. How much time would you like with each department?
Can we do it in 15?
I
Think
think
of
it
it small
depends
department.
on what department and how
Well, so I
complex
said,
their
depending
budget
upon the
is.
size of the department.
Yeah, I think we could set 15, and then the ones that are, you know, like Jack Rudder, we'll set 15 for him, and we'll use the 37 seconds and get right
Then we
on
can
to
go
the
to
next one.
coffee.
Yeah,
And do you
Well,
need
and
to
he's
include
one of those
extension
that-
services in there?
Yeah.
They wanted to.
Unless he wanted to come talk
But
to
if
us,
we
I
don't-
don't see the
but if we
need.
don't invite everybody.
Oh, I think we should invite him and say that
Yeah.
if you want to come
That's the
talk
problem
to
we
us,
got
that's
across the
great.
board now, so.
You have to, yeah. And then extension services too, Mary Ellen, I don't know if you still have that information. She
That's
was-
man, that accordion knot, have we tackled that one yet?
No, but it's on my list to not let you leave before you talk about it. Those outside agency fundings, I need a more clear direction of what has already been included in the regional level.
Nothing,
And so you all want them to come to you individually.
well,
No,
we've got sheets here that we haven't done anything on yet.
they have a
Okay.
proposal for those, but then there's the
Okay.
other group that are county only, not
Right.
regional,
Right.
and we haven't talked about those
So
either.
the county only, I would like to have a structure of how we're dealing with them. For the ones that have already made their request through regional, that just needs to play out. Am I correct on that?
Well, we're gonna have to
Or are they
decide.
coming to you separately in addition to
No,
what they're
but
asking for?
The DA will come threaten us.
Well, I don't know. We've got a new DA. I'm not sure if they will this year. On
Somebody, you know.
the extension service, that one is kind of a different sort of an animal because Maxine's salary comes through the county. And that was set up a long time ago. And historically, other counties would pay us back for half of her salary. And then there was a time period where the other counties weren't invoiced. And so we were paying the whole thing. And so it's just kind of an odd animal.
Mhm.
And it's awkward because she's not somebody who's here, that she's in a totally different location. And her supervisor has to sign off on the timesheets. And it's really awkward. And I don't think it always works out right.
So.
It'd be
so
better if-
Separate from budget money, that's a good conversation to talk about relationship and your
Mhm.
expectations around.
And there's a much higher level conversation taking place
Mhm.
right now. Valleywide, with CSU, and the new director of extension. And Tony Frank and all those people are involved in it, right? So there's conversations taking place way up here. And so, but without getting into the weeds on each department here, trying to figure out which ones need to come in early to help us start to firm this
We're
up.
running out of time, so we really need to
Right.
get this
And if we can,
resolved.
if you think you're ready to do that as early as Friday, I'll plug some of these higher priority ones or more time critical ones in on Friday. And they may also be your longer conversations.
They
that you
might
need more than
be,
15 minutes for.
and
I don't
again,
know.
not getting into the weeds, but I'm assuming that some of these, like courthouse security, have a separate funding line, right?
They have, and they have their own department and they have grant money that pays for their
Okay,
expenses.
so we need to have the conversation so we can fill in the blanks on our budget, but that's kind of a one and done, already determined, basically, right?
Right. And have
Okay.
I don't know, have you guys signed the paperwork for their new grant? I remember, yeah.
Okay, did we for courthouse?
There was, I think he was asking for that.
Okay.
I don't know about that.
So any of the departments that don't have a capital expense request, let's assume the treasurer does not. They're not buying tires, so we don't have to worry about coming up with money for that. We're talking basically payroll issues. Employees. So as we start going down the line, as far as who we have come in and talk to us, some of them we could get out really quickly if they've already submitted their stuff, like land use, building department. I'm assuming the clerk and recorder in elections, unless they have a capital expense, they could be.
This, I think, I don't think they have any. I think the assessor wants it for, what do you call it, ATV,
Okay. A TV,
an ATV.
oh, an ATV. I was gonna say it was TV to do COVID, but,
Is that what she was asking for? Because she's,
yeah, and she
what I
needs,
understood, it was a four-wheel drive vehicle.
well, she
Oh.
needs.
Oh, I'm
well,
sorry. Yes, you're right. You're right. It's a
Okay.
four-wheel.
Whatever it
drive
is,
vehicle.
she needs something
Well,
to do
and
what she's doing, but, maybe. that can be
correct me if
afforded.
I'm wrong, but in this year's budget, didn't we put a four-wheel drive fleet vehicle to purchase for the assessor to use along with other departments to use when
Who's-
necessary?
Whose budget was paying for it? What department? Do you remember?
I don't know, it would have been fleet. It would have been for the fleet. And so I'm not
Well,
sure.
whether we did or not, we didn't buy it, right?
Well, what I'm wondering is if we should, if that's something that can happen this year. Because I think it's already in the 2020 budget. That's the way I remember it.
Could be.
There's nothing in her department.
No, it wasn't in her
Well, the only
department.
place that would be in indirect or maybe buildings.
That conversation was, there was gonna be one vehicle bought for sure that would be a combination vehicle, assessor and.
I thought it got
Land
cut.
And land use
Land
could
I
both
thought it got
use.
cut.
I don't remember getting into the budget.
It did get, because Dixie pulled her request.
Yeah.
Last year, she
I think it
got
got
fed up
cut.
with the process and said, okay. But whatever, without getting into the weeds on that, which people do we want to have come in Friday? And,
Do you want to tackle your fairly quick, that are expected to be simple, or do you want to dig into your bigger ones?
well, normally I like to do with the big rocks first, but I think the big rocks have some questions, except for the
Okay.
sheriff. We're pretty clear on him. It's
Okay.
just a matter of,
What are your other big?
well, a big rock is going to be, that's $1 million department downstairs.
You're talking
public
public
health.
health.
But we may not have enough time tomorrow to,
Right.
I'll have some
I
information.
I think we need to give your new director a little time to get on his feet. before
Right.
we-
Well, I think I need to meet with him and go over the budget
Yeah.
and his line items and kind of,
So that
Familiarize him
he can
with-
have a better position to. have a
Right,
conversation.
and since he's 90% grant funded, and we've got audits going on and a lot of other things, that is,
Sure.
it's not.
It's big, but it's not Friday.
That's
okay.
right. Road and bridge, is there anything we need to deal with there? Does he have a $300,000 line item for a new road?
Maybe the one with that answer.
I mean, we can ask him.
And.
he does
and-
have a request for equipment.
What if we had talked, see if we could come out on Friday?
And I know that I didn't talk to him, but HR talked to him about
Yeah,
some of his
they're
vacant
back to 5
positions.
days a week.
Yeah, I know he
Yeah.
had some
They
staffing.
They're off there 14.
unknowns, and I don't know
How
who
long
those
do
are.
they do for?
All winter.
I think he would like to maybe
all summer
bump it
they
up
do
to
the
4
410s, and they go
Oh,
more
5 days a
positions
week
when he
and
has 3
first of November
vacant.
is sort of,
I thought he said maybe
Okay, so road and
4 would be a
bridge,
good number for him, but I think he needs to be involved in the
So
conversation.
we'll target Road and Bridge for Friday.
okay,
We'll wait a little bit on public health, but knowing that it's a big rock to tackle.
right.
What are your other priorities?
So this is the stuff.
Some of
that
these look pretty
I
piddly.
included
I
in your
think we
budget.
really need to talk to Weed.
Weed as a Friday?
I don't know what day, but we do need to talk
Well,
to
we're,
him.
we're gonna talk to everybody in one way or another, but I don't know what, we're trying to populate. Friday's
What's
calendar.
your timing priority? Not
Right.
funding priority, but timing priority.
I'm assuming Pat's gonna take time, because he usually takes quite a bit of time to explain to us his rationale and what he's requesting. Is that-
He said, there's a memo that I put in your packet that he wrote to Suzanne talking about his requests.
Uh-huh.
It's in your book.
But even if he writes it, then he reads it, and then he explains it, so it can take time. You just don't, Pat,
How much time would you like for that?
can we get about a half hour? Can we give him a half hour?
Okay.
Okay. And then, do we need to do anything with the museum? It's kind of small rock.
She's asked, the status of her funding, and I don't know if you do that through a department level process
What she
or if
asked
it's
for.
an outside, it's not really enough. It's one of those odd animals again, right?
Is that one we can just clear the decks on, or is it one of those that we want to wait because we don't,
So she-
age-old budget dilemma.
She reduced, she's not, I think she's eliminated the part-time position that she's always had a vacancy for because it's too hard to fill. So she's not going to budget for that next year. And then I think she's going to use some of the curation money held in trust to buy new shelving. So that's money we already have in the fund balance that has to be used for a certain purpose.
Do we want to just deal with her on Friday and?
Why don't we do it? But Louise will also take some time.
30 minutes?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Particularly since she's been basically shut down for COVID and she's planning a Christmas program, which we will hear about.
Okay.
Good.
So we've got an hour's worth of time committed on Friday. You've got a total of up to 3.
How about the airport?
I don't know if we're ready to talk about that.
Oh, we got up to 3 hours. I
Up
thought
to,
just,
up to 3
I
hours.
thought
I'm
it meant
sorry.
3 departments. I
No,
missed one
up
there
to 3
somewhere.
hours
Okay.
of time and you've got
Gotcha.
one filled.
Because the airport looks like they're wanting to do some grant work. Use grant money for capital purchases, and so I need to know how to budget based on that.
There might be more unknowns in that area than some of our other departments that need some time.
Yeah, there's fantasy grants. And that's where we stuck a fantasy grant 2 years ago. $250,000. Remember
It
that?
didn't happen, huh?
Oh, it wasn't gonna happen. We weren't even asking for one. The minister just stuck it in for some weird reason, but it was money that wasn't gonna be there.
Would it be helpful to have that airport conversation Friday morning, knowing that you're interviewing applicants that afternoon? Maybe the content would be helpful.
Maybe, and if we have a conversation, it doesn't mean it limits us to one conversation.
No, definitely.
I'm trying to think. I'm not opposed to the concept, but in the conversations that we've had, it's been funny money conversations. It's not, they need to come, it's like, oh, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. Yeah, hold it. We can't do them all. What are we going to do? And it's just become circular. And I would like if they're going to come to us with a proposal, nail it down, guys. Okay, do your job and give us some numbers. And I don't know, we can ask them if they're prepared to do
If they're
that.
ready for it is the
Yeah.
question. Let me explore that. I know Tom is out of town and just getting back around.
He's going to be back Friday, right? He
Yes,
said he wanted to
yes.
participate in the interview.
So let me at least have that conversation once he's back and see how ready they are to present. And I don't know, Debbie, what they've already presented.
Well, it looks like they're going to be dipping into fund balance at the end of 2021 based on their wants and their budget.
Let me explore that a little bit, but I'll keep them on your back burner as moving forward at the point that they're ready. Is there other things that you know will be ready for conversation on Friday?
What if we go ahead and put the weed on there? And we got, I say maybe the accessor. She's right here. Maybe we get her up here and find out real quick on the vehicle.
Why not? Give her a heads up. She can get it
Sure.
done.
15 minutes.
And really, if there's anything with land use or building, maybe those would be easy to discuss and get through.
Again, so kind of get some of the small rocks out of the way so we can.
We got 2 30-minute ones, then we could have like 4 15-minute ones.
Right.
So your 30 minutes of Road and Bridge Museum, you've got weed and assessor. Are those 15 that you anticipate? Weed and assessor? Or weed?
Assessor,
does
yes.
Weed need longer. Can't say that.
I have a feeling weed would probably
But-
take a little longer.
Put the, we'll put the
Their
assessor in
budget was
front of the weed
reduced.
on the list.
I'm
Okay.
afraid it
And
might
then
be
that way
reduced too
she's
much,
not gonna
but I
take very
guess.
That's
long.
kind of
and then
my
we'll use her
concern is
time
that
to
he's
attach
new and he
the
hasn't,
weed.
I'm
And
not sure how
land
familiar
use,
he is with budgets.
Building.
He said he
even
worked
though
a lot
they're
with
two
the,
different
board and
departments,
everything,
maybe
so-
you
And he's
lump
really
them into one
concerned about it.
conversation.
I saw him the
They
other
use
day and. he's
Yeah,
like, I
and
really
And maybe
need
they're
to
a 15-minute,
Okay.
deal with that, so.
Mhm.
okay? So your weed, we didn't specify.
Let's go ahead and put in for 30 minutes. Be on the safe side.
Okay. So you've got 2 hours total dedicated.
Then, you want to shove the coroner in there?
Sounds like a project.
Sure.
Anytime you talk about the coroner, it's always like such a
I'm assuming he'll be
double
a
meaning.
15-minute,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, he got just about everything he asked for last year.
What are some of our other ones that will take less discussion?
We got are you gonna ask the city clerk, clerk and recorder? I'm sorry, I'm getting my places mixed up.
I do that
The
too.
clerk and recorder
You
to
know,
come in.
I think that normally her budget is not any different. I think that along with the treasurer, that they're not asking for any more.
We
And I
can
think
ask
that's,
them if they
I
want.
think
Just
that's
give
one
them
of
the
those, and just say,
Mm,
I think those are the ones that you ask them and say, you know,
Right.
we don't have to see you, but if you would like to see us,
Okay,
because especially if their budget is not any different.
and the same for the treasurer.
Yeah, because the treasurer, I think I just looked through and I think it's actually down just a little bit.
I know the clerk's office had a grant project, but that's this year that they're working on that.
You
Well,
can
probably
ask
it
them
might,
to-
it might carry over to the new year.
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
I don't know how, if they're gonna have a long tail on this election.
They,
stuff.
they will, they will. Let's not make them come Friday. But we'll invite them.
I think just invite, yeah.
What we need to add to the indirect service department in the general fund is a consultant to perform our cost allocation that we normally do for DSS. There's new
Yes.
guidelines on that
Oh,
now.
that's a $6,500
Jody
project.
Yeah, that's not included now, so we probably need to include that in our budget.
Should that be in our budget or DSS?
No, it's our budget because we're getting the money.
I'm sure we will have to see Jody. I'm sure she's one that,
Oh, she's gonna be.
She's
She-
kind of been keeping us in the loop of everything, so she knows about this. She's given us consultants to
And
talk
I'm
to.
still needing to learn more about what I need to do to follow up with that cost allocation.
Yeah, basically,
beyond the
I
budget.
guess you guys hired somebody a while back to do the cost allocation that we submit to the state.
yes,
And now they have changed their requirements and they're not allowing you to do
It has to be
Some-
an independent
mhm,
now.
well, some types of reimbursement requests. And it's kind of a complicated formula, so a lot of other communities, municipalities and counties are hiring a consultant to do it for them.
And we may be faced with that on public health, but we've not been.
We
tried
should
for that.
probably do it on public health too, because that way we know, well, we can charge their fund to recoup some of the costs of the general fund pays on their
So
behalf.
how about public health and DSS being one day for you?
And Dr. Bankula needs to,
And make it a little bit later for him to get oriented. Because Jody is already on top of things, I think that's going to not be a detriment to her to wait a little bit.
now,
And by a little bit, I mean another week or two.
right. While we're on this conversation though, our indirect charges to any of the departments is not good. CTC and admin buy all the paper. People go help themselves. Okay, treasurer gets her paper out of there, what have you. And admin, general admin's paying for it. And it's a little bit hard to track, and it's a good example, and it's a bad example. If it wasn't for the fact that CTC got billed for 50% of the paper, I wouldn't really care that much. But we need a process
Mhm.
that covers that. And then I started thinking, well, where's all this other indirect stuff? And that takes us into an area you don't want to go into right now, is how much rent do we charge the DA?
And that's what we could maybe incorporate it into the consulting services that we hire for the DSS
I have a suggestion.
cost allocation.
I bet you do.
Well, did you read the emails that said they're probably going to shut down this office?
No, I haven't seen
They're
that.
reducing staff in this office.
Well, I knew they were going to
And-
reduce staff in part because everybody's quitting with the new DA.
Well, but it sounded like they were going to reduce staff
In
and
which
possibly close it.
office?
The DA's office.
Oh, locally.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then we can reduce our commitment to them. Right? But that kind of, that area is, it looks to me like it's been virtually untouched.
And that's why I
Mm-hmm.
recommend that when you hire the consultant for the DSS cost allocation plan, you incorporate it maybe a public health
Friday.
cost allocation. And there used to be one in the past, is what I understand.
And what?
There used to be one
Friday,
cost
sorry.
allocation plan
Let's
for
jump in there.
public health in the
There
past,
may have
Adding
been
up
in
your
plan,
time
but
right
it got-
now. How much do you
but it's not being used
That's
It
anymore.
hasn't
15
been
minutes.
used that I'm aware
It'll
of.
probably take longer.
But,
Could have been
and that's not
PhD.
necessarily a conversation for Friday, but that's something that
Maybe
would
okay.
be kind of a paradigm shift in terms of how we handle our admin
Mhm.
funds. Because particularly we got all these grants floating out here, like the COVID stuff, we ought to recapture as much of that as we can, the expenses that we. So we've got, the clerk is an ass.
Let me recap Friday. I had to rewrite my scribbles here. Um,
The EM down at the end of the day for 15
Is
minutes.
he gonna be gone? Friday, he's got his training day or.
Yeah, I
something
think
else?
Yes, it is. Is
Think
it?
for Friday,
Okay. Well, we
something
may
else.
not be able to do that. We may have to call him, double check.
Put him on a
If
different
if
day.
he's gone, we may have to change that day.
Okay.
I was just trying to think of something at the end there. We could.
That
So
was a
I've
search I'm
got,
looking
these
for a
aren't
problem.
Yeah.
necessarily in chronological order. Road and Bridge, 30 minutes, Museum 30, Assessor 15, Weed 30, Land Use and Building combined 15, Coroner 15, Emergency Manager if he's available, Clerk and Treasurer invite, but no expectation if they don't want to be here. Am I missing anybody for Friday?
The
Okay.
treasurer invite.
Yes, the treasurer is an
Okay.
invite. And then the things that we are doing another time is public health and DSS at a separate date. We'll combine them on the same meeting, but do them at a later date. The airport is pushed a little bit back. We don't know when yet. Let's see, the extension service. What did we decide for that? On Friday?
That's gonna be I think that's gonna be more than what we want to do right now.
Okay.
We need to make some decisions how we're gonna go forward with that as a board period. So
Okay,
we have that
And
discussion.
yeah, and probably some conversations with other people.
Mm.
okay.
So do I have 8 on Friday?
So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, potentially 7, and that includes emergency management if he's available. So 6, if your clerk or your treasurer wants to come, there'll be a small time. You've got 2.5 hours of committed time there. It gives us a little bit of leeway to
Flexible.
be flexible on the timing on
Then
this.
we're gonna build a lunch hour into this day.
Yes.
Thank
You're
you.
bringing donuts, right?
Okay, that's the pre-meeting.
So let me
Yeah.
ask, just to make sure, because my knowledge is a little still in the learning curve here on this, are there any departments that we haven't talked about that we need to make sure we don't? overlook?
We didn't say land use.
We
Yes,
did,
sir.
they're on Friday.
Oh,
They're
okay.
tied with
With
building.
building.
Land use and building.
Well, I didn't get either one of those.
They're gonna be a 15-minute segment.
Building maintenance, are you gonna, Dean, do you have anything to talk on that?
Yeah, the elevator.
Yeah, I wish you would have brought that up. Yeah, I think there's probably quite a bit of conversation around about.
So that turns into capital expense stuff, though, a lot of it.
So maybe building maintenance is one of your
Bigger ones?
larger.
And I've had a lot of one-on-one conversations with Stan and stuff that he's looking at.
So we're gonna put them on Friday?
No,
No.
we don't have time.
The other one that we didn't mention specifically here is sheriff, and you've already,
And that,
you're not
this
gonna
is-
forget about him.
no, we're gonna have to sit down. I'm kind of like, he's almost our. flex
Almost
point.
done.
I mean, it's kind of our flex point.
Mhm.
If you have lots of money left over, he gets an extra car kind of thing. If it doesn't, you know.
Okay,
CTF money, are you guys planning on doing anything different with it next year?
The CTF money is fairly restricted on what it does. Well, yes and no, it is restricted. But what they did last year is they paid half of Tony's salary out of it.
No, Conservation Trust Fund lottery
Oh,
money.
CTF, I'm sorry, I was thinking CTC. Conservation Trust money.
Because I know this year I'm going to have to amend the budget because you have a
Right.
contribution to the city of Monte Vista, but so I wanted to
Set
include
on it and vote it.
anything.
That was
That's the way
a
I was
transfer, correct?
No, it was a check.
It should not have been a check.
We've been through this conversation somewhere. They had to write the check. That was the treasurer said that.
Yeah, they don't do the transfer that way. When it goes out that way, you write a check and then you transfer the funds back to ourselves.
Oh,
Write a
okay.
check out. I don't know.
Yeah,
why.
So Sherry
it's-
took that all.
Yeah.
It
But
comes
that
out
one
of,
happened.
And did that conversation happen with the lady from Conservation Trust?
when you say a transfer, what do you mean by a transfer?
A transfer
electronic
of the
transfer.
conservation is from Conservation Trust, where it's a transfer from
Their
them.
bank account?
And so it goes from our, not even a bank account, it
That
goes
fund.
from our account at the state to Monte Vista's account at the state. And so they are fully
Takes
responsible.
place there. And so
Well,
whatever,
that didn't happen. It was a check.
That should not.
that
have
should
been.
not have happened, but that's not, what happened was, that was the week that they did a new printout for accounts payable. And I hadn't had a chance to look at it. So one accounts payable I haven't gone over in the last year. I didn't catch that they had done the $150,000.
So
check.
they were
Now,
gonna, they're
well,
gonna
let-
take,
Let us, wait just a second, because we got a lot of conversation
Yeah.
on here, and I'm the only one who was involved in that end of it with the treasurer. And the treasurer told me they don't do the transfers anymore. They write a check and then they transfer the fund into us. They write a check out of our general fund, transfer the funds from CTF back into our general fund to cover the check we wrote out.
so, yeah.
That's what Sherry told me, and that's her job to write that. So that's what I.
Well,
did.
and, okay, I
I-
just want
I
to make
don't-
sure that it was done correctly at the state level.
So I,
Because if it wasn't and those funds
We
are
could be on
spent
the hook.
incorrectly.
well, we get the money.
No,
But
the issue was this, Debbie, that money can only be used for certain things. When we agreed to help fund Sky High, the bulk of that project is not eligible for CTF funds. So we were gonna have to get the money from us to Monte Vista so that we're not on the hook if they spend it on the wrong stuff. And so it was gonna be an interagency transfer. I don't know the mechanics of that. And if there was some special way to do that, that would prevent us or limit our liability, because it looks like their project, like I said, a good portion of it's not CTF eligible, Conservation Trust Fund eligible. And the part of the project they are gonna do CTF eligible activities may or may not absorb everything we send over there. And so there's high risk. And so whenever Trish was talking to Christy Doon, right?
No, I think it was the lady from CTF, I think Leslie is the name.
Leslie Jones?
And she said it needs to be a transfer just on the account from our account at CTF to
So
their
before it
account.
gets to our
And so-
account, I guess is what she's, it's what I'm understanding from you, before the
Uh-huh.
money comes to us, they keep that money and send it to them.
Or
No,
they take,
the money
they
already
take it
came to
out
us.
of our account or something. I'm not sure I
I guess
totally
I-
understand
yeah,
it
I'm a little
either.
confused on that.
We should already have the money because we get that money. every
Right,
year.
that's why I'm
Okay,
confused.
so money's already sitting in our bank.
Right,
But the mechanics of transferring this money to another entity who may or may not use it for eligible purposes, we were wanted to indemnify ourselves, because in theory, we could end up on the hook for $150,000 of ineligible expenses, and Monte Vista might just tell us to go fly a kite. And we have no control over how that money's spent. So we were just trying to indemnify ourselves. And so that process was described before. And that's why when the check went, I didn't see it on the payables that day.
I
We
didn't know
changed
anything
our
about
format.
that.
Remember, we did the format change because of Tyler. And so I just had scanned through it and didn't catch it. And so I would have asked about it. And I didn't ask about it until later. And whenever I asked Bobby something about it, she said, "Oh yeah, we already paid it." I go, "What?" I don't know.
Mhm.
And so I felt stupid for not catching it. But that was our concern, is that we make sure that we're not on the hook for anything Monte Vista does, however the money moves across. And Sherry downstairs said, this is how you do it. And so, if it turns out we did it wrong.
Well, and we have we had that signed letter from the city of Monte Vista and all that
They'll
other
pay us
stuff.
back.
So, yeah, so, I mean, we're covered to an extent, but I'm not arguing how CTF funds have been done in the past or what the lady told Suzanne that she knows about or whatever. What I'm arguing about is that when I went to the treasurer and talked with her, she said, this is the way you do it. Because I was directed to go to the treasurer to initiate the first start of it. All CTF funds have been handled that way, is what Sherry had told me, that they've done more than just that one. So
One of
I mean,
our issues with CTF is we've made some ineligible expenditures. We got our hands slapped and almost got our hands slapped on that stinking outhouse at Summitville. It took some rug dancing to get them to approve that after the fact. So we're kind of sensitive about it.
Okay.
But that's the story there, and I don't know.
I thought that somebody had called somebody from CTF and they said it was an eligible expense, and I guess
It was eligible.
Portion.
Portions of it are.
You're talking about the 150,000.
yeah, but then
Depending on
they
how it's
changed their
spent.
mind then. huh?
But you can't spend it on a convention center, and that's what they're building. It has a basketball court in it. The basketball court's eligible. The rest of it's not.
well, and in all honesty, just so there isn't hard feelings going out over this airway that we got on right now, Monte Vista has signed a letter saying that this is what we're going to do. The funds are set aside for the gymnasium so they can have the basketball floor, the volleyball floor that's retractable. And I would be really surprised if that'll be
I'm
less
sure
than
it's over
$150,000.
$150,000.
Yeah, and if
So
we
they're
have
not
that
gonna put up a
letter,
wall or
and
anything.
if they question it, we can send that letter to CTF, because we'll, at the end of the year, we'll have to send them a report to tell them how we spent the money. And if we can include a copy of that letter, if we have it, that'd be probably the best thing to do.
Okay. So we got Friday lined out.
We do. You have 2.5 hours of known anticipated time. That gives you enough flexibility if you go over on any of them to still be done by noon. If any of these people with the department are not available Friday, I'll bump them onto Monday, and that may be the case with Art if we already expect him to not
So
be
we
available.
have meetings on
Friday,
all day, Monday afternoon, Tuesday.
Not yet. Do you want one?
Uh,
But future
We get
meetings,
next Wednesday off.
once
Do we? Is it a holiday?
we
Yeah.
do.
Then we have to work Thursday.
We do. You're gonna be working Thursday. I'm looking at your
What's
calendar here.
Wednesday?
Veterans Day.
Veterans Day.
Oh, okay.
So
Aren't you a patriot?
And we have a
I just
regular
don't
meeting
even know.
on
I don't even know what day
Thursday.
of the week it is, so.
I
Don't
know.
say that. People will question your mental.
That's because I got too much on my plate.
So once we get through Friday and your Monday
Yeah.
work session, you're gonna have a
Maybe
little better feel
reevaluate.
for what you need to do moving forward. Do you need additional sessions? Have you talked about everything you need to talk about? And we can schedule those meetings through the week, either next week or into the week of the 16th, which is still ahead of the holiday. So you're in good shape
We're in
on your
good shape on
timing.
that. We need to add to Friday in the executive session.
Already made that note.
You already
I
talked about
asked her about it, and she said that she thought, well,
We
originally
can add it.
thought maybe we could just tie it to the other. We're just gonna add it.
It'll, because you're
Or-
talking about two different things. What your executive session that is on your agenda right now is for the purpose of interviewing your airport applicants.
Right.
And you wanted an additional executive session to talk about administrator applicants
Right.
again, right? So there'll be, I'll add that to the agenda for Friday. We still have time to do that and get that out.
Yeah, I want to make sure we got that one.
Yeah.
So am I gonna have any kind of direction on what I need to do, or are you gonna discuss that and have it?
Back to the reason we came in,
Yeah,
right?
because we were supposed to actually we usually send a
We need to
notice
do it.
to our employees when we do the open enrollment to tell them what the plans are, how we're gonna.
And when's the open enrollment notice? going out?
We
It's
had to
already-
send out the open enrollment information out because we were running into deadlines. So we went ahead and did the open enrollment without the information that they need,
Without the dollars.
without what they're gonna pay for, what the county's paying for, if we're getting any
But we can't make
COLAs.
that decision now,
We need you to give us direction on that now.
right? The direction, but no decision.
No, exactly.
Do you want me to do a scenario, put budget numbers based on a certain option? And then when we meet on Friday, show you what the budget looks like?
I think that would be a good idea. And that way we can have a full budget with those numbers in. And I think I would propose that since the insurance increase is very small, that the county doesn't pay any of the increase, but that we do cost of living and merit. And I guess I'm going to, for a starting place, go with like the 1.5% cost of living and merit. That's my thought for a starting place.
Let me throw this out for thought. If you can agree today on what to do with the health premiums, that's the immediate answer we need for the open enrollment, and then you can continue to talk about the COLA and merit on Friday. once
I
we
would-
see those numbers.
I'd like to make a suggestion. We give you 2 scenarios. And is that how much time will it take you to run 2 different scenarios?
Well, I would have to plug it into our software system and then run the reports based on the first scenario and then,
Take it out and do it.
yeah,
with the other
unless I roll it to a second budget, and I would have to call Encode to see how to do that. Since the system is new, I'm not too sure. I'm sure it probably could be done.
I'm thinking it probably
Create another
wouldn't
budget
be a big.
code or something,
I
but it would be hard to change the numbers either.
mean, it's hard to tell what the impact is to the individual. It's 23,000 a year, that's the family cost for 2021.
That's the impact
So-
to the
so if-
county.
So I had a sheet here.
That's the impact to the county.
That's- Okay, it's just premium, both employee and employer portion.
So,
So
well, I can't really tell you the impact to the employee unless I know what your decision is.
well, no, I'm just asking on this 2021 family coverage says 23,000.
No,
There's
it helped
13
me.
employees.
Okay, what I'm looking
So-
at is even on the family coverage, which is the most expensive, the increase, both employee and employer portion is $456. Am I reading this correctly?
A year.
For a year. And if you divide that out by the month, that's $38 a month.
That's correct. And that's what I had. Well,
And so that would be, and on family coverage, the county covers 51.9%. So it would be like roughly half of $38 that it would increase the cost to the employees. So it would be $19-ish,
so if the single
$20.
per month, it would be cost the employee, if they picked up 100%, it would cost them $16 extra a month. Couple coverage, it would cost about $31 extra per month. Family would be the $38 per month.
I'd like to look at just,
And that's for county and.
You were saying, Gene?
If it, like you said, an employee picks up 100%, that would cost the
Gene, what are you
employee.
saying?
I'd like to look at the 2% COLA merit and picking up the insurance. The 2% insurance and just see what that does.
2%, and then the merit.
2% COLA plus the merit, and we pick up the insurance.
Yeah.
That sounds, if I were an employee, that I would consider that in range.
Because that would be 245. 2%.
It's hard to say on the
Yeah,
health
yeah.
insurance what the percentage is
Yeah.
there, but that would be basically 4% plus.
Merit for
Insurance.
whatever, or insurance. Okay.
So if we
So it'd
did
be a
that,
4% based on the two,
Yeah,
and then it wouldn't be, I don't even think, not
So-
even
so we're looking at
percent.
$219,000
It's not as-
impact to the county. If we did the
That's
2%.
generous.
It is
plus
generous.
whatever we're doing on the insurance.
Because that would be what,
But that gives us a number to work with,
133, almost 200.
okay?
that gives us, and if we plug in Suzanne's and that one, and see what the difference is, there shouldn't be, I mean,
So if you add the numbers together, you'll see that, on the bottom line total, it's going to cost
Well, you can
the
tell.
133, so that'd be 134,000 plus the 86,000 plus the 27. So you add those together, that's the impact See, if you go with the 2%, it's going to cost the county 133,000, well, 134,000.
We're looking at COLA and merit.
The
So
So
COLA
that would
merit
be
together.
219,000.
Down the next list down there.
Okay,
Yeah,
and
The
then
do that.
219 plus
219
the
plus the
27.
27.
So you're $247,000.
It gives us a solid number to work around.
Mhm.
Does that work?
The two,
It does. Do you want us to wait until Friday for you to see the financial impact separate, or
Well-
should we go ahead and roll out open enrollment?
Well, if you get them done, could you email them to us where we could take a look at them and then maybe we could make a,
so do you want me to
well, we
implement?
can't make a decision on
Can't
it.
make a
right?
decision.
We can't make a
Well,
decision.
we
Wait, just a
can,
minute, Suzanne. You can't, there was a question on the floor. We can't make a decision today, correct?
So your decision on your budget is going to be your final adoption. You're not adopting anything
No,
today.
but for open enrollment.
For open enrollment, we need a answer to give employees before
I understand
you
that. When
adopt
can
your
we,
budget.
what do we have to do to authorize?
I
that?
think if you tell Debbie, roll out open enrollment with these parameters, that's okay.
We've already said the paperwork, so we've already done that.
I'm thinking of legalities of
Sure,
making
sure.
decisions. So
I think you're okay because you are committed to that. You don't want to tell your employees, we're paying all the insurance increase, and then come December 9th, when you adopt your budget, say, oh, never mind, we're not anymore. That would not be a good thing. So I would say be sure in what your direction is, because you will formally adopt that on December 9th, whatever you decide to do as far as that moving forward action today.
thank you. So
And the sooner we get that directive, the better, because Debbie, when does open enrollment end? It's soon.
Well, they have to have
It's
everything back
soon.
to the insurance company by the end of November.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, we could give direction on the insurance right now, right? You
Yes.
Agree with that?
Yes.
Mhm.
And if you'd rather go back into a formal session, we can easily do that. There's already.
but that decision doesn't have to be a formal vote. It just is
So
Is
just
direction to staff.
direction but it's kind of a binding,
It is
it's a binding
It is
decision.
binding, because you don't
Correct.
want to take it back and then have your employees counting on one thing and then you change your mind. and-
Well, that's not gonna happen. We're not gonna do that. So whatever we gotta do. But I think we're pretty much in agreement on the insurance, so there you go.
that
And
takes
then
care of that question.
No,
Okay, good.
Ah,
We're good to go with,
Can't remember
so
what I
for what
said.
I
You had two
understand,
options.
the 2% COLA and merit, which you are committing $219,333. And the county picking up the entirety of the health premium increase, which was the 23,852.40.
No, it'd be
no,
27,948.
27,948. But that's separate from the
27,948.
COLA and the,
Yeah,
So you
Yes.
want, so what Suzanne
This is for
mentioned
open
before,
enrollment.
we're not doing that? Because we
Well,
had
I
two
guess-
options on the table here, and I'm
Right.
not too sure which one I'm gonna have to.
what we're giving you right now
Is
is
the health insurance.
the health insurance, so you can do open enrollment.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do that, the employer picks up
The employer is picking up the.
100%, so you're gonna go with option one.
Option one. And then for Friday's discussion, you wanted some different scenarios as far as COLA and merit.
yeah, if you can do it, if you have time to do that, it sure would be nice to kind of see what the difference would be as far as a kick out, so.
So the first option would be what Suzanne presented would be
Well,
the one
apparently
point,
my option is no longer,
the employee picking it
yeah.
up.
And
That's why I
so
was
that one's
confused on
no
that
longer
one.
on the table.
So it was 1.5 COLA and then the merit, and then the 2% COLA and then the merit.
We have
right?
that number in front of us already, right?
Mhm.
So we don't need to discuss the amount. It's what we're gonna choose. which
And
it
you
is.
can sleep on that till Friday if you want.
And that one isn't an urgent one.
Right.
Okay,
Although,
So the two options or
It
just the one?
affects how you're
need
dividing up
any.
your other
Done.
parts
We're
of your
done saying
budget, such as
what?
capital.
Just use it,
expenses.
like I say, the amounts are right
Although
here.
plug them in.
I
Yeah,
do
we've already
know-
got the numbers.
I do know that Jody needs the COLA and merit information for her documentation that she has to have her budget in before we have to have our budget in. And so she needs that number rather quickly.
So Friday, are we having a special meeting or is it strictly work session?
Work session in the morning, special meeting in the afternoon.
Okay, so we've got the executive session at 1 o'clock for the purposes of interviews.
Yes.
And so we could have, after that, we could do this, right? The budget thing. I'm just looking at clock and time.
If you need more time in your budget. So you're starting at 9 in the morning on Friday to go through all your departments.
But that's not a special meeting, is it?
It's a
Where
work
we can-
session.
work session.
Now, yeah, I'm talking about where we can make a decision, so Jody can do what she's doing, and you can do what you're
Let
doing.
me put a action item on Friday for, you're not approving your budget, but you're giving formal direction to Debbie in terms of how to move forward. And that may be helpful for your other departments that you're meeting with too, if there's anything that is big like staff.
So if there are action items, then this is not a work session anymore, it's a.
Well,
special
you have a
meeting.
special meeting already noticed for Friday.
Because you have to have it
Because you
in
have
order
to
to
have
have an
one for your
executive.
interviews.
Right, but we don't
So
have it
you're
at 9
good.
o'clock,
You're
right?
good. You got the help in
So
that.
I don't have to do
Do
anything
you
until I hear from you
want,
guys. And then we'll go ahead and send a letter out to the employees saying that the employer is going to pick up 100% of the premium increase.
What action is it that you?
Okay,
anticipate
if we're gonna
taking?
make a decision on anything that we have to make a decision on, whether we're gonna have to have it in a special meeting if we're gonna do it Friday. The question is, when do we do that and how much of this do we incorporate in a special meeting versus a work session?
So all of your department talking about budget is a work session.
Mhm.
Nothing about your budget is finalized until December 9th.
Right.
So if you want to give some very formalized direction, such as what we're doing for COLA and merit,
Mhm.
it doesn't hurt to have that as part of a formal meeting so that is documentable direction.
That's what I'm saying. So where do we fit that in?
So let's put that with, at the end of your morning.
As long as it doesn't go past lunch.
Hold all these people to their 15 and 30 minutes. I will add a special meeting starting at 11:30. You can take whatever action you would like at that point, and then take a lunch recess and come back at 1 to resume that special meeting for your interviews.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does that give you what you need, Debbie?
Well, I'll just wait for your decision, on your options on Friday.
Right, but I mean, for right now,
Mhm.
going forward, you have what you need from us.
Yep, I do.
And thank you for giving us something we can look at
Yeah,
and actually see.
that's
Numbers.
really nice.
It really
Something
did.
simple, huh?
Well, it's so
I have
simple.
all
It's
the
like,
detail back here if you need to see
we
it.
have to
but-
have, normally we would talk for like 3 hours about this, and we all have to do is just look and see. So I appreciate that.
I think we need to know guidance on the number of employees too. If I make sure I have the right
Yeah.
vacancies for each department, if I have not enough, too many, I think that's a discussion and we'll need
That we
to-
would have with these department heads.
That's what I'm thinking. We can build that into Friday, or is that premature for what you need to have?
Well, if I can have an okay on all those positions from each department, then I know I can move forward with that
Okay.
many people
Okay.
to budget
And
for.
we'll build that into a formal action on Friday then, so that everybody's clear.
Since the department that is asking for the most increase is the sheriff, should we not do that until we visit with him again?
You were not going to have it till next week, the meeting, right? For the sheriff, when was the
Yeah, we
sheriff
kicked
scheduled?
him down the road.
We kicked him down the road with no defined date. We can define a date if you
Do
like.
we need to move him up so you can have that information?
I could go ahead and go with what I have and then knowing that it could be changed.
If you go with what he's already requested, which is really what we're doing, because we don't know what the impact of any of these requests are. So to prime the pump, you need a number. You've got your numbers from him. And then we can talk knowledgeably to him about yes or no. And give him the option of where he wants to maybe trim his request. To have the conversation ahead of time is just gonna be a repeat of the old one because we're not gonna know anything.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. And I hope we didn't stress you too much. Donuts,
got it.
Friday, what do you like? Chocolate, glazed?
Glazed.
Glazed, okay.
Plain glazed?
All right, we're ending this work session.